Well,
Yeah,
it
exactly. Where do we start?
It started out like this. We had a podcast and we made fun of the White Sox internal investigation, the interviews that were occurring. And I agreed with Smitty that probably what was going to happen is Rick Hahn was going to get promoted and Chris Getz was going to get promoted. Now, we may be right on part of that, but that's still yet to be seen.
I break down each of our segments into smaller parts for YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and stuff. Every podcast I break into segments. And I was actually, at the moment that news was breaking, I missed it because I was working on creating the artwork and cutting up the video segment for that particular thing. I actually called it Infernal Affairs, referring to internal affairs. I made a Departed reference because that's what Departed was based on. I think it was a Hong Kong film.
Great Hong Kong film.
Yeah, and I literally was writing the sentence, internal interview. Do we really think any internal interviews are going to lead to dramatic change? And right as I was typing that, apparently the news was breaking.
Slap across the face.
Something that you and I scoffed at the idea could ever possibly happen. Not only was Rick Hahn relieved of his duties, I think the most shocking part is Kenny Williams was relieved of his duties as well.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he had to, though. Like they were a duo since like 2002. Hahn was there with Kenny, and then we had the World Series championship, and then everything else has kind of been garbage since then. And I was shocked, though, and I do understand, though, also the idea that there's a way to just get rid of Rick and keep Kenny, but maybe there wasn't once you heard that Kenny was making deals with, because he's friends with the GM in Florida, and now his name's in the news too.
Yeah.
What's perplexing about this decision, though, is, I mean, I guess if you really are truly conducting interviews, and we'll get to that in 2 more bullet points, and we're gonna do this in chronological order.
Yeah.
That why they're the ones who did, not that they did a bad job according to all the analysts, but they're the ones who you left it in their hands to go ahead and start your non-rebuild.
Yeah.
Which I don't think you had a choice in the matter, but then why not just get rid of him at the end of the season? Other than, I guess the idea is, according to Reinsdorf, is he's looking to have this new team in place within the next few weeks before the season is over. So
yeah, that's also a great idea. I think we should talk about that in a bit. But I ran into a similar situation with Al Vila being fired last year after the trade deadline for my Detroit Tigers. And it was a bit troubling that ownership allowed him to do that, steering the future of the franchise even further down the terrible direction that he had sent them in over the previous 7 years. I guess in the Tigers case, all the deals he made were essentially long-term or short-term deals. It was expiring contracts. It was all free agents to be that he was actually left to move. So any GM maybe would be able to make a better trade potentially, but it didn't necessarily, he wasn't trading away future assets. So I'm thinking about the White Sox moves at the deadline. Giolito was an expiring contract. What else? Who else was moved?
The only questionable one is Berger.
No, and that's the one that is going to be perplexing forever. It was questionable at the time. It's doubly questionable now that ownership decided to move away from the people that made those decisions. So, yeah, that's going to be trouble. That's going to be a sticking point for Sox fans for a long time, especially considering how Berger's performing so far in Miami as well. But yeah, I mean, that's the only thing I can say is, timing is never good to lose your GM or president or both. But this was caught everyone completely off guard, including Rick and Kenny, I think. It seems like they had no idea this was coming.
Yeah, no, I mean, why would they? Jerry's a loyal owner to a fault. And we'll continue to get into that as we go into LaRussapalooza 2.0 probably, but and some other ideas that have been floated. But one thing was I kind of felt like that week that was a high note. Like, okay, there's change, but then you also look at it, and I agree with a lot of the columnists, especially in the Athletic. Well, you got rid of Rick and Kenny, but are you really changing the organization as a whole when Jerry Reinsdorf is still the owner of it?
But there was hope in that they were gonna, obviously it's gonna be a new regime, whatever it is. We'll get into the letter, the press release that was written. I think you've got it up there, but they was talking about a singular voice that was going to lead the White Sox going forward.
Yeah, that's kind of, and then now that's kind of been
yeah. That got, the legs got cut out from underneath that subsequently, but I just also think the timing is interesting considering last week 2024 season tickets went on sale.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
there was that brief period where it's like, oh, the White Sox are really changing something. I never thought they would do it. So that, I feel like that was less than a 24-hour period before we started hearing that it wasn't going to be necessarily the regime change that everyone thought it was going to be. But I don't know. Did you renew your 2024 season tickets in that 24-hour period?
Well, no, I didn't renew my 2023 season tickets.
That's right.
So,
well, I think the regular season tickets went on sale, so you could have lapped them up right then.
Yeah, that would have been. I should have just went nuts with the not knowing what was going on. What was I gonna say? Should I read some of this press release?
Yeah, let's go through that. There's some curious things throughout that.
All right, let's do one of
Covering up your microphone.
Yeah, that was my fault. I was covering up my mouth actually. Let's
That's a good idea on a podcast.
This
is an audio medium.
Yeah, so this will be kind of like an aesthetic segment when we have a City Connect jersey. I'm going to skip the first paragraph.
Read whatever you want.
But let's get to some of the quotations. This is an incredibly difficult decision for me to make because they are both talented individuals with long-term relationships at the White Sox, said Jerry Reinsdorf. Ken is like a son to me, and I will always consider him a member of my family. Okay. I want to personally thank Ken and Rick for all they have done for the Chicago White Sox.
I'm not surprised by we know Kenny's like a son to him. Obviously,
right.
He's been there forever, but I just like the automatic omission of Rick as being like a son to him. So Rick's a guy. He's here. He was here.
Because he doesn't. I want to personally thank Ken and Rick for all they have done for the Chicago White Sox winning the 2005 World Series and reaching the postseason multiple times during their tenures. Whoop-de-fucking-do. And losing immediately. I have nothing but the greatest respect for them as people and appreciate the commitment and passion for the White Sox they exhibited over the years. I mean, I wouldn't disagree. I wouldn't disagree with any of that.
No, of course not.
This is one of my favorite ones. Ultimately, the well-worn cliche that professional sports is results orientated is correct. Thanks, Jerry.
Yeah.
While we have enjoyed successes as an organization and we're optimistic heading into the competitive window of this rebuild, this year has proven to be very disappointing for us all at many levels. This has led me to the conclusion that the best decision for this organization moving forward is to make a change in our baseball department leadership.
Wordhole Media.